Hello, everyone, and welcome to 180 Degrees of Impact. My name is Matt Scott, and today I'm joined by Darrell Scott. No, I was going to say no relation, but I don't think there's any relation. So, how are you doing, Darrell?
Doing all right. Thank you, Matt. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm really excited to connect and really talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it. I remember maybe a couple years ago, maybe a few years ago at this point, first like actually meeting you and seeing what you're doing in front of the Learn Serve audience. Since then, it's developed a lot, and so I really want to get into all of that. But just to start out, I'd love if you could introduce yourself to the 180 Degrees of Impact audience.
Sure. Hello, everyone. 180 Degrees. I am Darrell Scott. I'm the co-founder and director of Push Black. We are the largest nonprofit media platform for African Americans. We attract subscribers through our Black History service that's based on Facebook Messenger. So we send messages out to about 1.5 million folks every single day, trying to encourage them to learn more about Black history. And prior to founding Push Black, I was a venture manager for a civic innovation lab called Accelerate Change. I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, but I do reside in Washington, D.C. and been here for about 6 years now.
Amazing, and I feel like that's a good little bit of an overview because I know I have a lot of questions, and to be honest, this is really this is a good opportunity for me to ask you the questions. And
Sure.
my very first one actually is about why you do the work you do, and I understand already from looking into just more of some of the work that you put out more recently that you've had a passion for a long time for Black history. But I'm wondering, what was it for you that actually led you from this passion and this idea to actually making it a reality? Because a lot of people don't, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, we're all standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. And from a young age, my mother and father both made sure that I knew about history. I was in the sign language choir where we were doing sign language to Martin Luther King's I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. I remember being in oratorical contest around Black history. I'm originally, again, from Little Rock, so full of Black history. Like, we know Little Rock 9 story. You're not but 2 or 3 degrees away from Daisy Bates, right? So that's just kind of been a part of my life. And to be Black in America is to also be politicized. And so I'm just, throughout my career, became more and more aware of the electoral process and the challenges that are there for my community. And so when we set out to establish Push Black, it was really trying to figure out how do we build something for our people that has like the reach and the power of the AARP, right? Like, Congress is afraid of the AARP, right? Congress is afraid of the NRA. Congress is not scared of all other marginalized communities, including African Americans and Black folks. So we wanted to create something where we could talk to people every day, fill gaps in their lives, and really build a platform for folks to see themselves inside of it. And so we think that can take us a lot of different directions. So in one way, we work on voter engagement, right? So we have this daily relationship with folks, and we leverage that relationship to have voting impacts because people trust us, because we're giving them Black history. We also work on criminal justice reform and economic prosperity because those are the top 2 issues that our subscribers have said that they care about and that impact their lives. So aside from the media, there's this whole advocacy portion of work that we do. There's the voter work that we do. And hopefully there'll be even more work that we do in the future. And how do we take it from the idea to product? Well, we talk to people. It's one thing to have an idea, come a dime a dozen, but how do you validate those ideas? So we use a process called lean experimentation, which comes from the business world. Some people talk about it as lean startup, design thinking, but it all is the point that you first talk to the subject. You talk to your constituents, you talk to your customer, ask them questions, and figure out what are their pain points. And that's what we did. In our early days, we had about 100 conversations, 1 hour long in-person conversations with different folks. We said, hey, what do you want out of media? What do you want out of politics? What do you want out of the world? And that resulted in a lot of different new ideas that we then went and tested with folks, and what came out of it was Push Black.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting because like 100 conversations is a lot of conversations to have. I know for 180 Degrees of Impact, I'm working on having 180 conversations, and that it takes a while to have that many conversations, as I'm sure you know. So I really appreciate the effort that you put into developing Push Black. And before getting more into Push Black, because I actually love the idea. I was a little bit thrown off when I first got Push Black on Facebook Messenger, to be honest, because I think first I saw some of your pitches and talking about what Push Black is, and it's mobilizing the community. But then I look at it and I'm thinking, oh, I'm just getting all this like Black history information in my inbox, which is awesome. But I'm wondering, before getting into that and the importance of all of that, was there ever a tipping point that you finally decided, okay, this is something that I'm going to have to create now?
That's a good question. So my co-founder and I, we both had full-time jobs before Push Black.
Yeah.
I had full-time job plus some contracts on the side. And, I didn't come on full-time to Push Black until probably a year or two in, because we were really waiting to see, is this thing going to take off? Is it going to grow? Can we validate a lot of our risky hypotheses? And so I would say the tipping point came when we raised enough capital to actually grow the team and go deeper into the work. We have 6 people that are full-time staffers right now, and all of that has been the last year. We've been around for 3 years, but for those first 2, we just, me and my co-founder, trying to make it work, which was a lot of discipline is what it comes down to, because again, I had a full-time job, so it was a lot of mornings, evenings, nights, and weekends that we were spending our time working.
Yeah. I think that you're starting to get into the big question around some of the challenges with developing something like Push Black. And you've already given some of the advice in terms of lean startup approach, but I'm wondering, what have some of the challenges that you've seen been with Push Black? I mean, it's massive now, and it's mind-blowing to see how far anything can come in just a few years. So I'm really inspired, but I'd love to know what were some of the challenges along the way?
Yeah, the same challenges that most people have, I would say, when they're trying to build something. Building a team is not easy. It takes time. You can't find teammates overnight. And really trying to build a good process that's inclusive and that is intentional and thoughtful is one of the top priorities, is hiring the right people. So I'd say that's been like a challenge, one that we've taken on and been excited to have, because we kind of get the opportunity to decide how we want our team to look, decide about the culture that we want to have, because it has to all start from within. We are dealing with a lot of different tech infrastructure. And so, we're multi-channel. So while Facebook Messenger is our primary focus, we also have a text message program that's pretty large. We have an email program. We're on all social media channels, and we're likely going to get on some more channels in the future. Yeah. And so dealing with everything that comes along with just tech and different vendors and vendor management is some of the nitty gritty stuff that is not sexy, but is necessary and necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert in terms of the tech and the business side of things, at least definitely not to the extent that you are with having created Push Black. But one thing I'm really curious about is looking at Push Black in the broader context. Like you mentioned the political context, but I mean, if you pull up Twitter, some people, maybe the president of the United States, it's his favorite app. And we see a lot that's popping up that brings up conversations around race. We see a lot, with the police brutality that brings up conversations around race. There's a lot, obviously, going on. And so I'm wondering, what do you see as like the broader importance of Push Black in that context?
Yeah, the broader importance, I would say, is that we're here for our people. We don't care about what other folks are doing. And so we are very insular in that way, that we are looking within for our own solutions. We believe that if we look back to the past of what our ancestors have done, they can tell us everything that we need to know about how to move forward. Nothing going on today is new. Nothing's new under the sun. And so we just kind of are rocking with it and trying to make sure that we grow, get more people on our team, get more people in our squad, and get our messages out and spread. And that's the only way that we can change things.
Hmm. Yeah. In the process, though, that kind of reminds me of just the fact that you do hear so many stories and you have a lot of, I would assume at least, I don't know, you could tell me, but I would assume you have a lot of interaction with all this knowledge about Black history. And I'm wondering if there have been any stories that you've told through Push Black that resonate with you more than others, or really are hit close to home, that you'd like to share now as part of what your as part of our conversation, because I'm really curious to hear.
Yeah, there's so many Black history stories, right? And for any given story, there's probably like 5 or 6 different perspectives and lots of nuances. So we feel like there's unlimited content and we're never going to run out because it's just always new Black history. There's Black history that's starting today and Black history that's hopefully starting tomorrow. And I do have the honor and privilege to just kind of learn. I'm learning every day. Like my team of writers are just always finding like nuggets of new stuff. Yesterday we sent a story out to subscribers around Fannie Lou Hamer, who was the founder of Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And, she's known for sitting in front of legislators and saying, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I think that's kind of the impetus for the founding of Push Black, where we on the founding team were just sick and tired of not seeing the best view of ourselves in the media. We were sick and tired of not seeing responsive media. And that kind of just sticks with us. And Fannie Lou Hamer is, great and really a matriarch of the movement. And so anytime that I'm able to learn more about her, she has a very impactful story, one that is with a lot of grief, but also one that has a lot of opportunity. And I'm going to bury the lead and hope that people go subscribe so that they can go learn about that story. And if they type in Fannie Lou Hamer, they'll get it.
Yeah. It's just, I think I don't know. I feel like in seeing the work that you do, I've always been really inspired. In a sense, I think there was a lot that actually built up in my experience with LearnServe, where I saw these high school students, for those who don't know what LearnServe is, a lot of incredible high school students creating ventures. And I saw you talking with them with your own venture at the time, I believe while you were still working full time. And so it was just interesting to see that people could balance, that someone like you really could balance work and life with also this thing that was a project just a few years ago now has turned into something that is a lot more than that. Do you have any advice for people to make that transition and balance the different passions in their life between what might be their full-time job and their passion project?
Yeah, that's a funny question because I don't know that I necessarily balance those things well at all. One could make the argument that I need to sit down somewhere and stop doing so much.
Yeah.
At the time when I met you, yes, I was working full time at Accelerate Change, and with a number of clients, partners, and I was working part time with LearnServe, running the incubator program, trying to help young high school students take their ideas and turn them into something, all while working on a few other side projects, including Push Black. I would say it's all about discipline. Get your schedule, get your to-do list, work that list. I actually don't think it's all that deep. I think it just comes down to, if you say you want to do something, then go do it and stop talking about it. And I think oftentimes people do a good job of talking about what they want to do instead of just going and doing it.
Yeah. Have you always had that mentality though? Because I feel like that's a mentality I would love to be with everything I have in my mind, like, let's just go do it. But it's tough. There's sometimes just barriers to that. Have you experienced those? I know I have.
Yeah, no, I mean, there'll always be barriers, I think, but showing up is half the battle. Like starting is half the battle, and one of my former bosses used to always say to me, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And so I had to learn that it's okay for, if I'm going to try to launch some side projects, that not all of them will be perfect, not all of them will go according to plan, but at least I tried, at least I did something, so I think that's the mindset that I've had since a kid. And so you could argue that I've done a lot of crappy stuff and messy stuff that didn't turn out well because perfect wasn't, I was trying to make it the enemy of good. And so I would just say, just get out there and do it. Again, with Push Black, we had ideas, But we started off with interviews. Yeah, 100 interviews was a lot, sure, but we've done like 500 now altogether. But it all started
Yeah.
one, And so my co-founder and I, like, we just said, okay, this week we're going to do 5 interviews. I'm going to do 5 interviews. We just focused on that. We didn't focus on the end game. We focused on how do we just take that next step. That was just that first step to take. That's what I always try to encourage people to do.
So just to clarify, when you were doing those interviews, did you have the vision in mind for Push Black that exists now, or was it sort of just an exploratory process where you're trying to still hammer out the details? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I knew that we wanted to build an organization that lifted up Black people. I knew that, right? And I knew that could be a lot of different things. And so we had lots of ideas actually that we put in front of folks. So after we had all of our initial, what we call customer discovery interviews, we then came up with about 10 different products. There were media products that we put out into the world and asked people what they thought about them. People gave us lots of feedback, and then we came up with 3 or 4 that we then ran Facebook ads against and had landing pages for each of them. And we were pretty agnostic on which product would have won. So we tested a Black news product, a Black history product, a Black music videos product, which is what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
My ideas don't work, so that one didn't pan out. And so Black history just happened to be the one that worked the best, and meaning we got the lowest cost per acquisition, subscriber acquisition for it. This gets back to, I knew what I was interested in. I had to listen to the people, right? And so people, in this case, subscribers and strangers on the internet are the ones who said Black history. Like, we are a Black history organization because our subscribers made us a Black history organization, not because we thought we had all the ideas or we had all the right answers, because we don't. And to this day, we still assume that we do not have any of the answers. We rely on our subscribers to kind of guide the direction for us.
For some reason, like, just this idea of, well, obviously, tailoring what you're doing to your audience is important, and being really mindful of what they want. So it's just the idea of supply and demand almost. That's a piece of what I'm hearing from you. But the other thing that came to mind for me is, I at the time when I got involved with LearnServe, worked at Social Driver, a digital marketing agency or digital agency. And one of the big tenets of Social Driver values was put people at the center. And so it's all about putting people at the center. You could still accomplish, it sounds like you still are accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Just the way to do that is a little bit different with those interviews and that discovery. So sure. It's good for me to know. And I guess to follow up with that, to get to one of my last questions in the interview, I want to ask, looking at you and what you're aiming to do, because it's really only the beginning for Push Black. Like, it's going to continue to grow and do incredible things. And I'm excited to see all the news stories and awards that you win and all the community that you built and how you influence elections. But I'm curious, like, considering your vision for what you want to do, not just with Push Black, but with your life, if when it's all said and done, if your life were a book or documentary, what would that title be and why? Or what would you want that title to be and why?
That's hard. I don't know.
It is. It's always a tough question, and I feel like it's a big one. And one thing I'll say to take pressure off of you and lower the stakes before you respond is that something I've realized with the different people I've interviewed is that title will definitely probably change over time. But it's interesting to hear, it'd be interesting to hear what your vision is now for what that title would be and why.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and put it out there that we're going to do a series. We're not going to do an actual documentary. That way I can get off the hook and I can give you multiple titles.
Wow. Go ahead.
Title 1, How to Survive on the Struggle Bus. I feel like every day I'm trying to figure this out. How do I survive on the struggle bus? Number 2, Just Gotta Make It, And I think for me, it's just a mindset of we got to get stuff done, and that's just what it is. And 3, I would say, is get you a good squad. Like, Push Black is what it is because of all of the great teammates that we have, all of the great board members, all the great mentors and advisors that I've had. I mean, this is not a one-person thing at all. It's a community of people.
Yeah. And I'll really say it seems to me like and I'll say this from my experience, at least using Push Black, that one thing I'm getting, even just from reading the stories, is this idea of community and knowing that, you know, I'm not alone in any struggles I'm facing as a Black man, or even just in general as a person, because there are people who've really gone through it, you know, to the 10th degree, at least in terms of what I would say. Like it's a lot more intense than what I've had to go through. And that's really motivational. It shows you that you're not alone. But what you said, I really love the last title, and I'm imagining it would be like maybe a 3 Netflix documentary series, and we'll figure it out. But I definitely want to be a producer if you're looking for a producer on that one.
Listen, it was even funnier is I love the show Unsung. Well, they come on TV1 and it follows all of these like music careers of folks who didn't shine. And we do joke on the staff a lot, saying, well, when we do the behind the music for Push Black, what will that look like? And like, who will be giving all the tea and who's going to like just be there. So maybe we do it that way.
Oh wow, behind the music. Okay, yeah. So maybe it'll end up being on VH1 or something like that. But
right.
it's inspirational, and even like so the last point of what you're saying about getting you a good squad, like you mentioned your team, and you've mentioned your team a lot, and so I think it's really clear how important a good team is. But even just like the laughter and the jokes and the morale and knowing that you're in it together, like I couldn't agree more with that last point, that, you know, really it's so important to surround yourself with good people who will motivate you, who will push you, who will inspire you. And that's going back, I keep saying learn, sir, but like that's why I really am glad that I initially even got involved with that, because, you know, I had a mentor who once said you have to see it to be it, and when you see people taking action, it motivates you to take action. And I'm sure people will be inspired by seeing your story. So just as we get wrapped up, I'd love to know, where can people find more about you and stay up to date with everything you're doing, and also connect with Push Black?
Sure. So everyone should go to Facebook Messenger, and the Facebook Messenger app, they should search for Push Black, and they can go to our Get Started page, and they'll start getting daily messages from us there. They can also connect with us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. We'll be on other channels soon, and that's the way to do it.
Amazing. And I just on my phone just pulled up my my Push Black app, and so I have it there. I'm getting all these. I love all my notifications. I'm looking forward to mine today. I'm not sure which. I'm just scrolling through now. So, but yeah, people need to pull it up. It's a lot. It's so easy. I'm shocked. I don't understand the technology behind it fully. We won't get into that today, but you know, hopefully one day I'll hear more about that and learn more about that.
Sure.
But Darrell, it's been good talking with you. And any final thoughts or last words as we wrap up?
Yeah, the final thought would just be to get out there and do it. If there's something that you want, go after it. It's within you.
Yeah, awesome. And I think to that point, you know, there are other people. I always say at the end of the interviews, you know, you could go to Let's.Care to find more from 108 Degrees of Impact at Let's You Care on social media. I'm at Matt Scott GW on most social media platforms. But the final thing I always say at the end of the interviews for anyone who's watching is to keep impacting and to really continue to put in that work. And, you know, really, Darrell, you're a great example of that. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.